What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of Dub Jellison Podcast, and today I have former Purdue wrestler and MMA fighter Jon Fitch with me. Jon, how are you?
I'm doing great, man.
Thank you so much for doing this. It was actually great timing. I got you right as your fight was announced for September 11th against Neiman Gracie.
Yeah.
So talk about
It's actually, you're scooping everybody, I think, right now.
damn near. I mean,
No, you are. This is my first interview or talking with anybody since the announcements. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah. So talk about how that came to be.
Well, actually, Crazy Bob, my manager, called me a few months ago saying that Bellator was looking to get the show started in July. So it was like 4 or 5 weeks, and I was walking around about 218 pounds because I was pretty much retired. Right, I haven't fought in a year, and yeah, I just weighing the risk and reward, it just doesn't really seem like it's paying off with the way the industry and MMA is gone. It's just like they're not really paying enough to want to keep doing this. But now we have this COVID thing, this lockdown, economic turmoil. Who knows what's going on? So might as well go out there and make a little extra cash just in case. Mm-hmm. And then also, I'm a weird person. I like, excuse my language, but I like mind fucks. Okay. So I like to put myself in really uncomfortable, strange, hard positions. So I've mostly trained out of my garage for this training camp. Mm-hmm. I've, very limited exposure to people. And then, we're traveling, cross country during a pandemic. They have all these lockdown like procedures and things we got to go through. You got to be stayed locked in your room. There's no like walking around when you're on site. So it's a very interesting scenario to be put into and have to compete at a high level against somebody who's trying to beat you up. So I think that's just fun. That's like a really fun dilemma that I want to get dropped into and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of talked about your training camp. How was your training camp leading up to this fight? I mean, obviously it's a lot different than what it would have been in the past.
Yeah. Well, getting my weight back to normal was the hardest thing so far. Like I'm 189, 190 right now, but I was 218, but I wasn't fat. I was lifting because my thought was I'm done fighting. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna be a jack 220 and live my life out that way. And Crazy Bob called and said, the fights are starting back up. And I was like, this would be a fun opportunity to check this out, see what's going on. Then the name Neiman Gracie was floating around for it. And I think that would be an amazing matchup. It's a great name, great history behind him and his family. So it's an easy sell for the fight. I like the fights where I don't have to explain to people who I'm fighting.
Yeah.
That's the worst. Who's that guy? Oh, I've never heard of him. Like, it's the worst fighting a tough guy that no one's ever heard of.
Mm-hmm. Because then everyone's like, oh, you should whoop this guy, and then he's actually like a really tough guy.
Yeah, and if you don't whoop him, then you suck, and if whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just how MMA goes. Sometimes I guess fans kind of suck sometimes, in my opinion, but for the most part, fans are pretty good. So both of you guys' last fight, I believe, was against Rory. Mm-hmm. So after that fight, what was kind of your mindset, given, I mean, all the things that happened with him and what he said after the fight, and how did you kind of move forward with that?
I mean, whatever. I just kept going. The sport is so preposterous, and there's so much nonsense that goes on with it. Like getting that fight called a draw is just. I was like, of course. Yeah. Like I clearly beat him. I won 4 rounds handedly, and whatever. That's just the way the sport works. And that was part of the reason for the retirement, because I'm just tired of dealing with it. Honestly, like you do everything right, you bust your ass. It's not a sport. It doesn't run like a sport. It's pro wrestling. The only difference is there's no predetermined outcomes. The UFC sold a lie for a long time to the regulators that it's a sport, so they get it regulated, and then they sell it to the fans as pro wrestling. Well, that just puts the fighters in a lot of danger physically, their health, and it steals a lot of money from them.
Mm-hmm. So kind of expand on that. I've never heard that kind of thought or.
Well, okay, in sports, all sports. A long time ago, over 100 years ago, in the late 1800s, U.S. government stepped in and said that a promoter or a event organizer is no longer allowed to control exclusive contracts or the title, because there's too much corruption going on there. If I sign you to long-term contracts and I'm the one who gets to decide who fights for the title, I can strip the title when I want to. That gives me absolute power. That takes all power away from the athlete. The athlete, it's no longer a sport at that point. No sport operates that way. The NFL, right? They don't sign the contracts. The team owners do. The team owner would be similar to a fight promoter, right? But because the fight promoters control the titles, they have absolute power. Their contracts are take it or leave it. They do their own rankings, so the rankings are completely arbitrary. They mean as much as a WWE ranking. The titles and belts themselves. We had a congressman write up a bill to expand the Muhammad Ali Act to all combat sports. The UFC sent their lawyer to talk to that guy, to talk him out of introducing the bill, and he said that the UFC title was not a world title, that the UFC title was a trophy bestowed on the best fighter that night. Basically, it's just a piece of, costume jewelry. They don't respect it as a world title. It's not meant to be a world title. And they don't treat it as a world title, but they sell it to everybody else, the public and the fighters, as a world title.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel that the UFC kind of handles what you're talking about compared to where you're at now in Bellator? Do you think Bellator kind of handles things better?
Well, when you have a monopoly develop in an industry, any industry, every other company in that industry has to follow their business model, or they will be put out of business. They can't compete. You can't operate doing things the right way in a corrupt market and be successful. It doesn't happen. So everybody else in the industry has to follow suit. They all copy UFC's. They've been copying UFC's contracts for a very long time. So even though the treatment person to person is way better from PFL and Bellator, from what I've experienced, like the personable experiences with them and the treatment and the respect they give to their athletes is way higher, the economic control is still the same.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously you fought for PFL, Bellator, and the UFC. How do you feel that you could?
I've fought for titles in all of them too.
Yeah, true. How do you feel like this can kind of change? Is there
Ali Act, Muhammad Ali Act. We have the Muhammad Ali Act in boxing. It was created. It was made into law in 2000 to protect boxers from corrupt promoters like Don King. As dirty and corrupt as Don King is, he was never as powerful as Dana White, because Don King never owned the title. Don King had to pay the sanctioning bodies off. He had to pay them, and it's just another corrupt move, but you can at least action that corrupt move and punish him. But you can't do that to Dana because he already owns the title. Yeah. He doesn't have to pay anybody off. So Dana's way more powerful and way more corrupt than Don King ever was. So we want to expand that to all fight. And that will give us a true place as independent contractors. We would get to look at the money flow. Who's getting paid what? How much money are they making? How much money are they spending on production? If we know exactly all of the numbers, we can negotiate our pay way better. If I know you're going to make $20 million off of this, like, well, that $2,000 doesn't seem like much. You're going to make 20 million. Like, okay, let's renegotiate that deal a little bit. Not being able to use, shitty contracts. Hey, we'll give you this bout agreement, but you got to sign these long-term agreements first. They do that all the time. Like they'll wait until you're starving and need money, and then they'll offer you a bout agreement. Hey, we got to fight for you, but you got to sign this 9-fight deal first for shit money, or we're not going to give you the fight, and you're going to have to sit out longer. So guys, they sign their life away because they need to feed their families. That would be eliminated. You would have independent rankings and titles. So the UFC would no longer control their belt. It would be a sanctioning body like the WBC, IBF, whatever, WBO, there would be something that would control the title and rank. And then lastly, with the Ali Act, the champions, if you become a champion, the second you win a title, you're a free agent. You are a free agent. You're at your most valuable. You just won a title. You have the right to go out and find out how much you're worth. Those four things. Those four things would change the way that the scope of the sport goes, and it would change the money that the fighters are making, and it would improve everything for everybody, except UFC. All the other promoters would benefit, though. The fans would definitely benefit.
Yeah, I think. We just saw recently with Corey Anderson leaving the UFC. They kind of treated him poorly in my.
They got to treat him a little bit like me, and they use the he doesn't have enough buzz, he doesn't have enough notoriety, like he didn't have enough following on social media. It's supposed to be a sport. Does that sound like something that happens in the NFL? It's like, oh, this quarterback's going to win us the title, but we don't like his social media presence. It's silly. It doesn't happen in other sports, and that's why. It's because there's actual competition in other sports.
Mm-hmm. It is kind of a tricky slope, just in terms of, it is like a one-on-one battle, I guess you could say, compared to the NFL, where it is like an entire team. If you get what I'm saying in that regard.
Yeah, it is individual sport, team sport. But if you look at other individual sports, tennis, golf, darts, whatever, they all run the same. They all run the same basic premise. You have a promoter or event organizer who puts the event on. If he controls the title, which happens sometimes in individual sports, there's no exclusive contracts. So those athletes will jump from event to event to event. Well, we're not allowed to do that. We're not, that would be the other answer, is that we don't have exclusive contracts. All of our fight deals are one fights.
Mm-hmm.
That would be another option, but they don't want to do that because they want to own you. They need to own you because that's how they make the most amount of money off you. That's another one of the scams that they've pulled, is they've built their equity. The companies built their equity off the backs of fighters. It wasn't anything they did. It was what the fighters did. But those fighters have been scrapped and thrown away. Tim Sylvia can't even get his arm fixed from a injury he got in a fight years ago. 10 years ago or something. Like they're not taking care of their athletes at all. And honestly, I don't think that they should have to pay for insurance or pay for back stuff like that. They should be paying their fighters a correct percentage, right? They should be paying themselves enough to be able to afford the medical treatment they need later.
Mm-hmm. And I'm obviously not well versed in how all that works, but how much do you guys get paid? So say like in the UFC or Bellator now, if you guys get hurt, do they cover that? Is it just during the fight?
In fight injuries are covered. UFC has an out of competition insurance thing too. It's pretty shitty because I got injured, I hit it, and it was expensive, and I would have been better off without it, I think. But you do legally, they have a legal responsibility to pay for injuries that happen in the fights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I don't want an outside company paying for my insurance. I want them to pay me, a correct percentage, which is probably somewhere at least 50% of the money that's being brought in. Pay me that, and then I can choose my own medical coverage. I can choose what I need. It's just UFC pays under 20% of their event revenues to their fighters, and they're making way more, 30 times more money than number two.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only and that's event purses are only 50% of their earnings. They have merchandising and all this other stuff going on where they're making as much money, if not more, than their actual events. So like the fighters are making peanuts for the UFC compared to what they could be making.
Yeah. A big thing that Rogan has talked about that I kind of agree with is kind of negating the win bonus. So you just get your show money.
Yeah, that's you can look that up, man. That's a scam. That's been made illegal in a lot of other businesses. Like you can't 50-50 pay. It's a manipulation. Like there's papers written about that shit. Like that's what it's for. Like the 50-50 pay, because people will always assume they're going to get the higher pay. Mm-hmm. And then, guaranteed purses, 100%. You need guaranteed purses in fighting. You need guaranteed pay and everything. Would you go to your job as a dentist or, a plumber if it's like, oh, well, if you got this job like this, you'll get half your money. And it's not even about working hard or trying hard. It's like, oh, well, someone was better than me that day. So now I get half the money. I put in the same effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of issues that I think MMA as a whole needs to fix. But I wanted to kind of get back to you.
Yeah, I will say that you're right there, and I'll leave this. Nothing changes as long as the promoters control the title.
Yeah. I'd never heard that argument, but I really agree with it now.
Think about, it's the basis of all professional, not even just professional sports. Like think about the NCAA. The NCAA doesn't sign athletes to teams, right? Mm-hmm. It just controls the title, and it picks whatever the stuff for who's playing in the tournament. It has a system that everybody has to follow, and then it makes sure everybody follows the rules the same, right? Yeah. It's an independent body doing that. Well, we don't have that in MMA. It's everything. Every sport, everywhere has that. Yeah. We don't. And that's why we're the most exploited and it's the most corrupt.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Right? So in 1926 is when they started doing sanctioning bodies. So boxing, since almost 100 years, boxing has had a third party control the titles also. So it's terrible. It's very plainly obvious what the problem is.
Mm-hmm. So getting back to you and your career, you're 42 years old. You said that you're retired after the Rory fight.
It wasn't for like physical or performance reasons though. I haven't lost a fight since 2014.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So given if you win this fight, which I think you will, but if you win this fight, what do you think would be next for you? Would you continue fighting, or would you?
I mean, who knows what's gonna happen, man? China may invade tomorrow. Like, I don't see this lockdown ending anytime soon. Mm-hmm. Like, when winter comes, we're probably gonna get another wave of it. I don't even think it has anything to do with a sickness. I think we have an economic crisis that they're trying to cover up, and there's a lot of people out of work. There's nobody moving around. There's a lot of crazy shit going on, and we don't know what's going to happen in a year. We don't know what's happening in a couple months. So I'm making the most out of it. I have an opportunity right now to do something fun and interesting. I get to entertain some people who are probably bored and stressed out, and I'll make some money to put away and probably buy some gold and silver and ammo with
it. So how do you think that you match up with? Sorry about that. How do you think that you match up with Neiman, and how do you see this fight kind of going?
I think I match up with him really well. He's got youth, of course. He's a big guy. He's not really explosive, really fast, but he'll grind on you. He'll do the work. He'll be in your face. He'll come forward. And he's a Gracie, so he's got the submission game. Got to keep him away from my back. Got to keep him away from my legs. I know he's going to have, the crazy leg lock game stuff that everybody's into right now. I've got my Danaher DVDs, and there's some situations I got to stay away from. But I think I have way better wrestling. I think I'm bigger, stronger, more physical, and I got better stand up. So. There's a lot of tools that I have to frustrate him and beat him with. And he's limited with what he can do, but he's really good at it.
Yeah, I'd agree. So you're kind of at the end of your career, like we've talked about. If this was your last fight, how would you look back at your time in MMA?
I had a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of heartache in there too, just because I thought, the greatness I could have seen for the sport, I feel was stolen. Mm-hmm. Because we had more competition and the market was way more open, and the fighters earned a larger percentage of the take before the UFC started choking everything and controlling everything in the early 2000s. Like 2008, I think it really started to feel like they were pushing in a pro wrestling direction.
Yeah.
and now they're full pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to the announcers play-by-play. It's always the same. It's like I could replace the commentary with any other fight, and they're saying the exact same things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old and I've heard it all.
I mean, I'm relatively new to the sport. I started watching UFC 232 was the first pay-per-view I like sat down and watched, and it kind of turned me onto the sport. But I mean, over the course of your career, you fought legends like GSP, Damian Maia, BJ Penn, Rory. Who, in your opinion, is the best fighter that you fought?
GSP. And that's not even a technical thing. You know, he had timing and good game planning. You know, like he was doing what I was doing, but he had better stand up.
Yeah.
And then I never got a chance to rematch him after I made the improvements after our fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the time I spent in Thailand, and the coaches and the people that I sought out and worked with. It would have been great to have had another crack at him. I think I would have beat him.
Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to kind of transition to your time at Purdue. Obviously, you wrestle at Purdue University. So talk about your kind of path through there and what it was like getting that opportunity to come here and then your path after that.
Yeah, so I found my way to Purdue because I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I wanted to play professional football since,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the first day I can remember in kindergarten when they asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up. I was like, play football. So like I had that dream until halfway through my senior year of football season. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not really getting the letters or calls from anybody to go play. I might have to reconsider this because I maxed out at 6 foot. I maxed out at like 205 pounds. And that's just a little bit too small to play middle linebacker at a big school, you know? And I wasn't that fast. So I was like, well, you know, I like wrestling. I still want to compete, and I want to win a national title. So I was like, I'm going to go wrestle, because if I walk onto a football team, I might make a kickoff team by the time I'm senior. But if I walk onto a wrestling team, I could become a national champion. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to wrestle. I was like, where are we going to wrestle? I was like, well, I can't afford to go to school out of state. So that really narrowed those choices down. And I was like, fuck IU. So went to Purdue. I also had an old teammate that was already on the team, and then his younger brother, who was my grade, was going down there too. So I had a crew of people that I would have known, and the times that I had gone down to Purdue, they were fun. I had a good time. So I went down there, and I learned pretty quick that, man, guys are tough, because we had 20 guys that were freshmen or something that came out that year. And I think there was like 11 guys close to my weight class, or I don't even know. It seemed like there was a bunch of guys, and they were all guys who were state qualifiers or high school national champs, or they did big stuff. And then, you know, the guys who were qualifiers were just as tough in practice as any other guy. So everybody was good. Everybody was tough. And, you know, that was kind of a wake up call. And I worked hard, but it wasn't until after my first year as a starter. It was my sophomore year of eligibility, third year in school, and I had a really shitty year. And part of it was because I practiced hard. I worked hard in practice during the season, but in the off season, I raged.
Yeah.
You know, living on your own, girls, you know, thick girls, and Coors Light was the norm. So, like, you know, we would work hard, but we played hard too. And then I started getting more serious in the off season after that. And I have a book out, Failing Upward: Death by Ego. And there's some journal entries from that summer where I was like, we're taking this serious. I think I went 8-31 that year, 8 wins, 31 losses that year, my sophomore year. I wrestled like 15 guys who were ranked in the top 20, because, you know, Big Ten, you wrestle fucking monster teams.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it was just, I was cutting weight wrong. It was the first time really cutting and maintaining weight. And I just wasn't there mentally, and I didn't believe in myself, didn't believe I belonged there. It was not a good situation. And then, shitty girlfriend at the time too. That's the worst. So then, summertime, I locked down. I didn't drink. I trained. I got a job and just worked and trained and painted. And that was what I did during that summer. And then I started turning things around and started winning a lot more wrestling matches and doing well. And then, that led to me eventually thinking about fighting, because my assistant coach was Tom Erickson, and he was number 2 on the Olympic ladder for like 13 years in Greco-Roman wrestling. And then he was fought in Pride in Brazil and some other places. And, he would tell stories. Gary Goodwood would come to town and work out with him, and they would tell stories. Mark Coleman would come to town and tell stories. And it just sounded a lot funner than, teaching back in my hometown.
Is that what you went to school for?
Yeah, I got a degree in wrestling. I went to school to wrestle. Well, yeah. But I got, I graduated with a degree in education, PE and history. So I was going to be a coach and teacher.
Mm-hmm. That's what I came to school for at the beginning. And then that's what I applied for, was social studies, education, and history. Mm-hmm. And then I went to athletic training. That's what I wanted to do. And then I ended up getting like a point. I failed 4 classes my first semester, so that kind of messed everything up. But then I found MMA, and thank God for that. And this is what I'm doing now. I'm in mass communications. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I resonate with, you just buckling down and pushing through things to be successful.
It's all there is. You just do the work until it's done. It sucks. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be rewarding. Yeah. And no one's going to pat you on the back or cheer you on for the fucking work you did.
Yeah.
Like, people are mostly only there for the celebrations. People are only going to show up for your celebrations or to point and laugh at you when you fail. So like, don't ever think that fucking somebody's going to like, oh, good effort. No one fucking cares.
Yeah.
You got to care about yourself, man.
I've kind of seen that recently. You probably haven't seen, but I had Purdue President Mitch Daniels on last week on Friday. I put it out on Friday. And there's some people that have never said anything about the podcast to me, and they're starting to come up to me and say what's up and all that stuff. So I can, yeah.
Nice, good stuff.
Yeah. So a couple things I wanted to ask you before we left was GSP and Khabib have kind of a little back and forth about maybe a potential fight after.
Big money fight. That'd be huge.
Oh, that'd be ginormous.
That's why GSP is interested in it, because it's not just American, Canadian money. Like, you're talking, Khabib has 20 million Instagram followers. Like, he's like one of the biggest stars in Russia.
Yeah.
So like, that's a huge fight.
Mm-hmm. So given that you fought against GSP and then you train at the same gym as Khabib, how do you think that fight would go?
I don't think GSP would have any strength advantage over Khabib.
Mm-hmm.
He is fast, though. He was fast. I remember him being fast, but that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still that fast.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as cardio goes, Khabib's not going to get tired with him. And I think that Khabib's wrestling is better. Mm-hmm. So it's speed and agility versus Khabib's, power and I think greater skill in the clinch. I think Khabib wins.
Yeah, I'd have to say so too, just because, we don't know how GSP would look at 55, assuming that he'd go down there. So,
I'm saying Khabib goes up.
Khabib goes up to 70?
Khabib goes up to 70, and he still beats him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the
85 would be different though, because GSP is probably filled out because he's a little bit older, and it would probably be more natural for him to be fast, strong, and feel good at 85. And Khabib might be giving up some strength and be a little tubbier at 85. But I don't think that would ever happen.
Yeah, I don't think it I saw GSP did like a mock weight cut to 55 in 2019. So.
Right.
I saw that recently, actually. I forget who put it on there. Might have been Hawani.
That's interesting.
And then a few really good fights here coming up in the next few months. Douglas Lima and Gegard Mousasi are going to fight. They haven't found a date for that one yet, but how do you see that one playing out?
I think Mousasi's too big, too skilled. Yeah, I think he's just Mousasi. I think is one of the most underrated guys out there.
Mm-hmm.
Super tough. Hasn't really been promoted by the promoters the way he should have been. And yeah, I think he's fought at 205 and 85. He's a big guy. I think he's got too much horsepower.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to agree. And then last two fights are Adesanya and Costa, and then Khabib and Gaethje.
Man, I'd like to see Costa win, just because I want a little mix up would be good. And it's not that I don't like Adesanya, but he just gets a little too cute in there. And I think guys play his game, and there's, I don't know, it's weird that there's these big gaping holes in people's games and people don't exploit them. They won't. I'm gonna win a bonus and just stand with the guy, instead of I'm gonna win the fight and get the title and make more money. I don't know. I don't understand the logic sometimes.
And then what about Khabib and Gaethje? I'm assuming you're rolling with Khabib in that one.
Yeah, I think Khabib is going to be able to wear him down, control, get inside. The big factor will be Khabib making Justin miss with the big punches, and then he's got to check all the kicks.
Yeah. And then before I let you go, talk about your podcast, where people can find it, what it's called, all that good stuff, and
I got a list of things going on. But yeah, so I have a few podcasts and things. So I have Jon Fitch Knows Nothing. That'll be tonight at 7. That's a live stream. And I stream to multiple platforms, so it's on a lot of stuff. Periscope, YouTube, Facebook. I even got a Twitch, I think. I'm not sure how to use it, but I just set that up or whatever. So it streams on a lot of different things. I have I have 2 shows on a platform called Rockfin, and that's a really cool platform. You pay, there's a lot of free content on there, but you can pay $9.99 a month, and you get access to a lot of different creators, not just me. I have a show on there called Boomer and Toots. It's me and my friend Leah Lee. We talk about masculine and feminine viewpoints on a lot of subjects like dating and things like that. And then I have the Cauliflower and Cocktail Hour. It's on a brief pause right now, but that's on Thursdays, and that's on Rockfin, and that's I review scotches and tasty drinks. So I got bored during quarantine, and I was like, well, I'm drinking in the afternoon anyways. I might as well stream it, and then I'm not an alcoholic. But yeah, so I have Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything. My roommate, or my guy Chris, just moved in, so we're setting those things up, and we've been doing shows, but we've been a little inconsistent because we've been moving and setting things up. But we're gonna start doing a regular show, live show, and then we'll have one-off things here and there. That's coming. And then I've got a kids wrestling course available on Gumroad. I've got a net care guide available on Gumroad that you can get for free or donate some money if you think they help you. I've got a resistance band training course that I'm going to be putting up on Gumroad. All those things are also going to be available on my email list. So if you go to jonfitch.net, you can sign up for my email list and get all access to that stuff. I send out an email about once a week. Sometimes I'll miss a week because I just don't have anything going on, or I'll be too busy to write. But yeah, that's how you'll stay up to date with everything I'm doing.
All right. Thank you so much, John. It was really an honor. It was a fun time too.
Awesome, man. Good talking to you. Check you later.
For sure. Good luck.